For week 4, I wanted to give you guys some hints for section 4.4 combinations and permutations because there are some shortcuts in Excel that I believe are going to help you. So the first function we see here is the factorial function where we take the product of decreasing integers down to 1. In Excel, I believe the command for this is just equal fact. Open the parentheses and you put in where you want to start. So let's see here. In this example, we had 7 factorial, fact 7, and we get 5040. The next two are combination and permutation. Again, combination is without regard to the order, whereas permutation is an arrangement. Order is important. We have two different formulas here given, but both of these formulas are built into Excel. So if I hit equals combin, open the parentheses, the larger number always comes first. So that's the total number. That's what the textbook calls n, comma, and then the smaller number. All right, and then for permutation, it is equals permute, no e, open the parentheses, and again, the larger number comes first, and then the smaller number comes second. And then lastly, towards the end, we have a formula for a permutation in which we have repeated numbers. These were the examples like when you were arranging the letters in Mississippi or Tennessee, where you have repeats. In Excel, this is going to be equals permutation A. However, in my practice, I never came across an example of this type. All right, so let me take you through a couple of my practice problems, then show you how to do these in Excel. So the first one I have here, we are choosing pizza toppings 3 from among 6. So the first question I ask myself is, does the order matter? So is a pepperoni, onion, and sausage pizza different from a sausage, pepperoni, and onion pizza? No, those are the same. Order doesn't matter. So this is going to be a combination. So we're going to say equals combin. I put my larger number first, which is 6. That's the total number to choose from, comma, and then how many we're going to choose is 3. And we get 20 there. So next, we want to come up with a password that has 6 letters followed by 3 odd digits from 0 to 9. Okay, so we're going to do this one in 2 pieces. Now what's important here, it says if a character or digit cannot be used more than once. Okay, so in other words, my password could not be A 333 because it cannot repeat. This is what's going to make this a permutation as opposed to that fundamental counting principle. I'm going to choose my letters, arranging 6 letters from among, there are 26 letters in the alphabet, and then we want to choose 3 odd digits from among 5. So I'm going to show you this both ways. So let's say I use my permutation. So equals permutation. All right, I have 26 letters, and I'm choosing 6 of those. Close the parentheses. All right, now I'm not going to hit enter yet. Times. All right, now we need to choose the arrangements of our odd digits. I'm going to do a permutation. I have 5 odd digits to choose from, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, and we're going to choose 3 of those. So I have a permutation to choose my letters and a permutation to choose my odd digits. Okay, now if you tried to do this last time in the fundamental counting principle from section 4.3, we'd say, okay, equals, well, I have 26 letters for my first, but then once I choose one of those letters, I can't use it also for my second, so then I have 25 options, then 24, then 23, then 22, and I believe we're choosing 6. Okay, so now I need to choose my odd digits. For the first one, I have 5 to choose from. Then once one of those is taken, I have 4, and then I have 3. All right, so both of those strategies give you the same value. Okay, the next one in my practice, this is a basic factorial, so we're going to use that abbreviation FACT, equals factorial for 10, which again would be the same as 10 times 9 times 8, and so forth. Okay, now this one, we have a permutation divided by a combination. These could get kind of tricky if you're trying to do the arithmetic by hand, but in Excel this is not going to be hard. So we had a permutation in the numerator, and I believe there were 12 total items and we were permuting 7 of them. Close the parentheses, and then we want to divide by, we had a combination in the denominator, and there were 12, and I think we were permuting 6 of those. Okay, next we have a doctor who is seeing patients, and we want to know, how can a doctor visit 7 patients? So we've got 2 options here. Here, order is definitely important because we are arranging these. So we could say that this is a permutation. Well, if I did equals permutation, okay, well, how many patients do I have? 7 total. Well, how many are we arranging? Well, we're arranging all 7 of those. Another way we might do this is we say, well, let's use that fundamental counting principle. Well, I'll have 7 options for who I see first. Once I see that first patient, then I have 6 options for who I see second. And then 5 left for who I see third, and so forth. Okay, or even a third strategy for doing this one, I recognize that 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 is a factorial. So we're going to use FACT, fact, and we want the factorial for 7. And note that all 3 ways give us the same result. Here we have 10 factorial divided by 5 factorial. There's 2 ways to do this one. The easiest way is to say, okay, I have equals factorial 10 divided by factorial of 5. But another way, you might recognize that a factorial divided by a factorial here would be a permutation. So here, let's go back to those formulas. You might recognize this as the bottom, the permutation. I have n is 10. Well, if n minus r is 5, well, that tells me that r is 5. So another way to get the same result, you might identify that formula as a permutation, and there are 10 items and we are permuting 5. We get the same result. Here, once we read the problem, if this is a lineup, we see that order is important, so we identify this as a permutation. Okay, there are 2 ways we might do this one. The first way, we could enter it into Excel using our fact, F-A-C-T command for factorial. We just need to make sure that we have parentheses around this entire denominator. Excel will get the order of operations right. Or the second way, we might identify this as a combination. If you remember those formulas we looked at, in our case we have 9 factorial where n is 9. divided by 3 factorial, where r is 3, and then we have n minus r, or 9 minus 3 factorial. So both of those should give us the same result. So let's see if we can give that a go. So if I do it the long way, using the formula, equals FACT, in the numerator I had 9 factorial, divided by. Now here's the part that might not be apparent. You need to open the parentheses to begin your denominator. Then we have factorial 3 times factorial of 9 minus 3, and then close the parentheses to end the denominator. If you don't put those parentheses around the denominator, we will not get the correct result. Okay, or again, we recognize this as a combination, so it might be a little quicker if we just say equals combination. We have a total of 9, or n is 9, and r is 3. Both strategies should give us the same result. Okay, again, here I just need to decide whether order is important. If it's an arrangement or a sequencing or a ranking or an order, I'm going to use permutation, and if not, if order doesn't matter, this is a combination. This one is a little more subtle. Here, a president has to select 7 cabinet members from among 11. Now, this one doesn't say anything specifically about order. Oh, it does right here. It says where rank matters. But the way you have to think about this one is, if I am the vice president and you are the secretary, that is a different arrangement than you being the vice president and me being the secretary. So I believe this one would be a permutation, although it's a little trickier because you don't necessarily think about order when you think about cabinet members, but maybe you could say the first person is the vice president, the second person is the secretary, and so forth. Again, if we're drawing without replacement, think about whether order is important. Is a hand of Jack, Queen, King different from a hand of King, Jack, Queen? Okay, and when I just ran through my practice, never came across this case where we have a permutation with repeated values. So if you come across one in yours, I believe the command is equals permutation with an A at the end. But I believe your practice is the same as mine, so I doubt you will come across this case.